Hey folks, Derek Q. Sanders here, and tonight I want to address a question one of my followers has posed to me, and let me read it, and then I will go into my response. She says, let me get back up to it. I scroll down. Hey Derek, I've watched some of your videos, and you asked for suggestions. Well, you touched on this, but I was wondering if you could expound on it a little further. I was reading a relationship blog elsewhere, and the subject matter was the distancer and the pursuer. With the woman being the pursuer, in the woman's video, she spoke on men being the aggressor and being engaged in the beginning, and shortly thereafter they pull back and become distant. And then we as women pursue and try to overcompensate to draw them back in. She says it's pretty much a normal dynamic, but gave advice as to how you reel them back in. So my question is, why do men fall back after they get what they want? And how can we keep their interest? Can you address this either in a video or post? I know that there are a lot of wounded men out there, but I would like for you to actually speak to the good man who's been hurt, possibly in childhood, versus the player. Okay, very, very good question. Very, very good question. Where we start? Where we start at the beginning. It's a couple things. I remember having a conversation with a good buddy of mine's older buddy some years ago. My friend, good friend Frank Collins Sr. And Frank was saying that in normal relationships, you have the ebb and flow between the man and woman, where sometimes he's the pursuer, she's the distancer, and then sometimes she's the pursuer, he's the distancer. So, and there's just different schools of thought. And just for those who are not familiar with what I'm talking about, the distancer is a person that creates distance because they may feel pressured, they may feel like they're being, what's the word? They may feel like that they need space. Smothered, that's the word I'm looking for. They may feel like they've been smothered. So they want to create distance because they feel smothered. And so Frank was saying that that's kind of like a normal ebb and flow of a relationship. So there are different schools of thought along those lines. But what I found particularly interesting about what stood out to me in this question was, she said, why do men fall back after they get what they want, and how can they keep their interest? Now, what I just spoke about before, I mean, I can see that being just normal. Sometimes, just you need space for a certain reason. I don't think that's male or female. I think that can go either way, where sometimes just different things happen in life where each one of us, the man may need some space and the woman may need some space. Doesn't mean that anything is necessarily wrong in a relationship. Doesn't mean that the person is longer happy with the relationship or there are any problems. Just sometimes different things happen in life that you might need to deal with by yourself. And it may be just something internal. It could be a lot of different factors. I think that's normal. But what she asked about, this particular part, why do men fall back after they get what they want? That's different. That sounds more like the situation where you have a man whose interest was one particular thing. Maybe he was interested in sex. Maybe he was interested in getting the woman's attention because he didn't know her, he found her attractive, and he wanted to gain her attention. And then once he got her attention, he may not have any interest beyond that. That definitely happens with guys who are looking for sex. She did ask the difference between the player and the good guy. With the good guy, he may just need some space. He might just need some space to himself. Maybe he's dealing with sometimes there are things that guys are not comfortable sharing with women. Just some things we're just not comfortable with, because there may have been things that a guy may have tried to share with you, and he may have tried to share some things where he had to be vulnerable with you and share some things that maybe he was insecure about. And this happens, and sometimes ladies don't really catch on to the fact that this is something that's like a big issue with him that he might be insecure about. And it's no necessarily any fault of the woman. Sometimes when men express these things, we may not necessarily express those things in a way where you actually understand that this is really a big issue, or this is an issue where I'm vulnerable. Or it could be a situation where a woman is so used to a man handling himself where he doesn't even ever seem vulnerable. So you just automatically think because he handles everything well, he takes everything in stride, that he doesn't have times where he's down. And so when he does try to express himself about certain insecurities he may have, sometimes a woman is not really paying that much attention because she thinks, oh, okay, it's not really that big of a deal. And she may not realize that, no, this really is a big issue. And he's really trying to express that to her. And then if she does not really respond in kind or does not really respond to him, her response is not a response that lets him know that she recognizes that this is like really an issue for him. He may be reluctant to respond or be reluctant to really show that in the future. So he may, when it comes to certain things, he may just kind of keep to himself because he doesn't want to expose those things because of how she may have responded before. And again, I'm not saying that that's anything bad or anything against a woman. Sometimes it's just a misunderstanding, miscommunication. So sometimes when a guy's trying to talk, he's trying to explain certain things. Make sure that you're listening and paying attention, because sometimes those of us who are strong, we got chinks in our armor too. We have chinks in our armor too. So that's one thing. That's the good guy. But the guy that's the player, he pulls away when he gets what he wants because there's nothing left for him to get. And again, I see this a lot with women who give themselves to a guy because they don't want to lose him, or they have the mindset, if I don't do it, another woman will. So she feels like she has to because the competition is too hard. So if I don't sleep with him, another woman will. And that's unfortunate, because there are guys out there that are not, we're not looking for sex from our girlfriends. We're looking for sex from our wives. And if you're not my wife yet, you're not his wife, those types of guys, that's not what we're looking for. Those are the guys who are looking to date for marriage, what I call purpose-driven dating. So those are not the guys who get what they want and pull away. The guys who get what they want and pull away are the guys who go out with a girl, go out with a woman, and they sleep with that woman. Finally, she lets down her guard on the 91st day, or however many days it is. She lets down her guard. The guy sleeps with her. And then she thinks that a relationship is going to ensue, a real relationship, because she gave herself to this guy to prove to him that she really was into him. She gave him what she wanted. It's just like the old saying that I've mentioned before. The old saying that says, men give love to get sex, women give sex to get love. Well, unfortunately, in that exchange, only one of those persons get what they want up front. The guy who gave love and gets sex, he got what he wanted. The woman who's giving sex to get love has given the sex, but the love is what she's waiting to get what she wants, because he pulls away. Because once he gets what he wants, usually she starts pressing in. She starts pursuing a relationship, or a more meaningful relationship. And that's not what he's looking for. So that's why he pulls away. So it's two different things. It's a totally different dynamic where it's just normal in a relationship, as my good friend Frank said, or as someone else I was reading said, that it's they summed it up to being just kind of the difference between men or women. Either one of those cases, that would be normal. That would be nothing to be concerned with. But a situation where a guy pulls back because he got what he wants, that's different. That's a relationship that needs to end. That's a relationship where a person, there's nothing you can do to reel that guy in. And a guy, well, let me address that too, because she did ask about that. How would you reel the guy back in? If a guy, the good guy, if he's pulling away, the way a woman could reel him back in is one of two ways. If he's pulling away because he feels overwhelmed, he feels smothered, then the way you could pull him in is give him the space that he needs. For the guy who may be pulling away because there's something that he's dealing with that he doesn't feel comfortable talking to you about, because he's trying to talk to you about something that he feels he has to be vulnerable to talk to you about, and you didn't really respond in a way, you responded like, oh, it's okay, you'll be all right, or you didn't really pay attention to the depth of that issue and how that was affecting him. Or you have, hopefully not this, but sometimes attitude, man up, or that kind of thing, where sometimes women don't realize that men deal with some issues on a deeper level, and it's not always that easy for us to just get over or to address. Sometimes it's not that easy. So the way you reel this guy back in is to listen with care. And I'm not talking about babying him. I'm not that guy talking about babying anybody, because a man does not need to be babied, but he does need to be heard. He does need to be heard, especially when he's talking about something that's really an issue with him. He needs to be heard, and he needs to be heard by his woman. And something actually I was talking to my girlfriend about earlier, not along these lines, something totally different, but just where sometimes those that are closest to you, women don't realize how, if you're in a relationship with a man, you're closer to him than other people. And certain things that you do or certain ways that you respond to him, he will react to differently than someone else. So somebody else is like man up or whatever, or, they didn't respond in a manner where this was just like, where they were just all attentive. He respond differently. But when it's you, when it's his woman, it's totally different, because you're like the closest ones to us. And so what you do matters in ways that it does not matter when other people do the same thing. So again, to reel him back in, just be there for him and let him know that his issue is an issue to you, and just try to listen. Just try to listen to him and care about what he's saying, and make him feel comfortable where he can talk about it. And again, I'm not talking about, where he's being weak or anything like that. It's not like that. But he should be able to be, your gentle giant should be able to feel comfortable and be able to talk to you about something that he may not be comfortable talking to you about, because sometimes men are uncomfortable showing weakness. That's not an issue of ego. A lot of times it's just because it's our culture. The culture does not allow men to be vulnerable. And unfortunately, a lot of times when a man is vulnerable, because the culture does not present that as an attribute or a character, an issue of character, good character for a man, is difficult. Because sometimes women, when men show that they're vulnerable, or they show their vulnerabilities, sometimes it's difficult for women to respond to that. Sometimes it's difficult for women to see that as even being a manly trait. And again, I'm not talking about a guy that's acting weak or anything like that, but just being able to talk about things that he might struggle with, or things that he might have an issue with, things that may be hurting him or whatever. So that's how you reel him in. Just be attentive. You don't necessarily need to solve anything for him. Just listen and care, and let him talk. And maybe encourage him. All right, so that's what I have for that, for this question. Very good question. And again, if anyone else has any questions, please, you can inbox me on Facebook. You're on you're on Facebook. We're on YouTube. We're actually on Facebook too. So it's Facebook, what you're looking at, facebook.com/Derek Q Sanders, DEREKQ Sanders. YouTube channel is the same thing, Derek Q Sanders, DEREKQ Sanders. So you can reach out to me on either one of those if you have any questions, any particular topics, or anything you want me to address. Check out my website, DerekQSanders.com. I have my bunch of blogs there, blog posts there, articles there, and as well as my books on my relationship resources page. You can find my 2 published books, and I have more on the way. So subscribe, share, comment. Thank you. Everybody have a great night.